strategies that we'll be looking at. And that was our LFA process in a nutshell. And if anybody has any questions or comments, either to me or the rest of my staff.
Can I just add a couple of
Oh,
quick little
absolutely.
things? One of the things that this isn't is my lonely groom coming in and telling you what you should do in your town. The whole impetus, and I'm not in the right place in my, the whole impetus for this process is that it is the community's plan. So we can meet with you and you can say, well, tell us what happens if we do this. Tell us what happens if we widen the channel to be 500 feet. Tell us what happens if we dig down to China. And we will look at all of that.
Yep.
At the end of the day, we will come back and we'll look at some things that we think have some real possibility in terms of reducing flood levels in very high catastrophic 100-year type of storms. But at the end of the day, we may find solutions that work that you as a community say, no way, not happening here. And that's really important feedback. We may find others that have just a minimal amount of impact in terms of reducing floodwaters, but it's really inexpensive, it's easy to do. You as a community may decide to do it. But at the end of the day, I like to call these things blueprints, because I'm an engineer and I'm a dork, but kind of a roadmap for you as a community to say, what's going to make a difference and what can we do in a short term in 5 years, what is maybe feasible to do in 10 years. And some of these things, maybe there's no way that this is going to happen in our immediate future, but maybe 20 or 30 years down the line, whoever owns this parcel might decide they want to sell it and we can use that for a flood bench or to extend a bridge. So we'll look at some long-term possibilities as well. And at the end of the day, we hope to leave you with a plan that you can put into action and not necessarily just put on a shelf. But I just want to really underscore, this is your plan, this is not our plan, this is not New York City DEP's plan. And there's going to be a lot of conversation that happens between now and the time that we finish. So that's just one thing I want to get out there.
And we throw out some terms like a floodplain bench or a hydraulic model, and if some of you may understand what that is, some of you may not, so just ask questions, we can go into, yes.
Yeah, now these computer models that you're using here, you're saying something about, you use the computer to the contour of the creek.
Right.
Now, I'm sure you look from up at the headwaters in Oliveria all the way down to Boyceville, right?
Well, we haven't done anything yet, we haven't started, but.
I'm talking now. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that there's more spots than this that have to be done. I mean, the whole, I don't know anything about engineering the way you guys do it, but putting a channel in, right down the, we started with this, misconfiguration of the stream in 1967 when we couldn't go in the creek anymore and dredge it, because we used to do that once there was a flood or high water. You went in and you fixed the bank up, and luckily the train was there. And on that side where the train was, every time there was some kind of flood, they'd bring the machine up and they would fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But since 1967, and we've had, 1968 we had high water. Then in 1980 we had the big flood, and then in 1996 another big flood. 2005, and then of course 2010, two of them. In Phoenicia, we were devastated again, and then of course Irene and Lee. So, and with all this, all the debris that's built up, and all the what do you call it, the sand and gravel. Now, this sand and gravel you're talking about, maybe we can, where the money's coming from. How about digging all the sand and gravel out of these creeks? And there's creeks. I don't know of any rivers. The only river I know is the Hudson River and the Missouri River. But this creek here is going to get like a river, because when I was a kid, it was just it wasn't a narrow creek. And it was about 4 or 5 feet deep all the way down. and now it's, maybe a foot deep. They gotta go in there and take all that debris out of there, sand and gravel, we could sell it, and probably for the whole county or 2 counties, have enough sand and gravel, and enough wood to probably all these people that need heat in the wintertime. Now, this should be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And, but there's so many other areas in this creek up here in Shandaken by the bridge. That's gonna go, the bridge is gonna go there. We're gonna lose 28, about 4 spots. Above where you were talking about in Mount Tremper, 28's gonna go there above Uncle Pete's, because that island has been there for years. They never took it out. Should have been dug right out of there. But you gotta worry about the trout and the DEP, the city of New York. City of New York should be paying for all of this. There's where you want to try to get your money, to get paid right from there.
Well, Ed, let me answer. First off, Rick, I'll remind you that in my opening statement to introduce these folks,
Yeah.
we are doing an analysis in Phoenicia and Mount Tremper, and then we will look at subsequent areas.
Okay.
Their work is being paid for by the DEP as you've requested. DEP is paying for them, through the Shandaken Watershed Program, for them to do this analysis. Now, you can understand this. You don't want to have your fingers in too many pots at one time. So let's see how this process goes. If everything works and if it's copacetic and we find projects that are effective, and what you're suggesting is something that you're willing to look into, correct?
Yeah, I know, of course. I'm getting old, Rob. I won't be around
I know,
for
that's
5 years.
I'm close to you now, I'm speaking a little more loudly so that you maybe.
25 years,
But
a lot of
that
people would
is
probably be
exactly
happy about that.
That is exactly the process planned. And when we have the meeting in Phoenicia, I certainly hope that you're gonna be front and center. Instead of sitting at the back of the room, you can sit right up front so you can make sure that you can clearly see the visuals that we're providing.
I will
and
do
give all
that.
these comments.
I will do
As
that.
they'll consider it, they'll put it onto
I'm
that.
not afraid to talk.
I know you're not. They'll do the modeling, and we'll see what we come up with as the best solution for
Because there's a
Phoenicia
lot of
and Mount
people,
Tremper.
I'm not the only one, there's a lot of people that come to me and say, Rick, I like what you say at the meetings, we have to protect. I'm also in real estate besides the water.
You are.
And I know a lot of, everything along the creek, down 50, 60, 70%. I sold that house down there for $207,000. He put $500,000 into it. Why? Because, and now they won't even let him put a barrier up.
Now you're getting into other issues.
Because of flood
And a
elevation.
proposed flood wall, which the town has an issue with, yes, the
Yeah.
town does have an issue with that.
Okay, there's another question.
That's
I have 2 questions. One is, in terms of this question about starting with Mount Tremper and Phoenicia,
Yeah.
we are a long town with a lot of stream
Yeah.
area. Is it helpful to start downstream and then potentially work upstream in terms of the way this modeling and then any interventions would go, as opposed to starting upstream and then working downstream? Or it doesn't make any difference?
It doesn't make a lot of difference. It depends on what types of alternatives are feasible, because if it's how do I explain? If it's a project that reduces flooding locally and doesn't have a lot of impact either upstream or downstream, then it doesn't matter whether you start upstream or downstream. Hopefully, we'll also look at some larger strategies that they have a larger impact, in which case one project has the potential to influence another project, if you understand. But in terms of whether we start in Mount Trumper or Phoenicia or further upstream, I don't think it matters. Where we are. Yeah, the confluence of Stony Cove and Esopus is
The volume of water is not going to change. It's the effect you have on the local strategy.
Yes.
On projects that's going to lower that elevation.
right. I mean, on some smaller streams, you could look at things like flood storage, but on a creek like Esopus Creek, you're not going to store enough water to reduce flooding in Phoenicia.
But the modeling does allow us to look at, what if we did project A, D, and F in combination?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you can have a bridge that's backing up water to the extent that it doesn't matter what you do upstream, you're still gonna be underwater until you fix the bridge opening. Once you fix that, then some of these other smaller projects might make sense, but until you fix this barrier, these don't make, so that's the kind of sort of ordering that we can look at. And the model actually runs from downstream to upstream, but we can look at any combination.
And can you give us an idea about your experience with doing the modeling and then having projects follow on the modeling, and how well your modeling has predicted what happens? Have you had the opportunity to try this all out, or are we kind of one of the first places?
You are not a guinea pig. Well, actually, one thing that we failed to mention, we are locally in New Paltz. We've been in business as a company as of last weekend for 30 years. And we started as flood control engineers, so we've done this for a long time. I've been with the firm for almost 1 year. So we've had lots of other guinea pigs long before you. One of my partners, Jim McBroom, who is a founding partner of the company, we really worry about him every time we have a big flood, because he goes out and measures marks on buildings all over, and
Sometimes there's a rope tied around his waist.
yeah,
Like,
he's
literally.
really not safe. He's hopeless. But one of the things we do is calibrate our models. So it's very cool. And we were on the ground during Irene and Lee. We did work in Mount Tremper. We did work in Phoenicia. And we call it pre-calibration because we know where the water surface rose to. So we've got some marks, and hopefully in some of the local meetings that we have, you'll tell us where it came. And then we can run either from flow gauges or from some regional data, we can actually run our model at that flow and say, does the water at this location really rise to that? And so we can tweak it a little bit, because there are a number of variables in the model, like how rough is the surface on the overbanks and on the channel bed. So we are able to actually do a bit of a calibration on that as well. And unfortunately, you have a lot of experience in terms of how high the water came under various precipitation events. The very cool thing about modeling is it's tried and true. It's a method that has worked time and time again, and it's very inexpensive to do projects on the computer as opposed to real life. And many communities have spent millions of dollars on projects that will give them zero flood control benefit. They may feel good because they did something. Unfortunately, what they did isn't going to help them the next time they have a major flood. So hopefully we can avoid spending a lot of money here, and we can tell you where the best value for your dollar is going to be. Or where somebody, better yet, the best dollar, somebody else's dollar benefit is going to be, because part of what we'll look at is where funding is potentially available. Thank you.
Rob, you may be able to answer this, because it's not really something, but I was not a member, but I sat in a lot of the New York Rising committee meetings, and with those experts, it seemed like you did a lot of modeling and HEC-RES stuff. Will that coordinate with this? Can that feed into this?
We tried our best to coordinate with the New York Rising program, but timelines did not jive because New York Rising seemed to be on a rush path where we need to do this properly. It does coordinate, but the HEC-RES modeling that New York Rising was doing was more broad than what these folks are going to do. Again, it's going to be specific to cross-sectional diagrams that we have in the stream in those sections. Again, going back to what Rick said about starting way up in the stream, yeah, we could have started all the way up and worked our way down. But we need to see, again, we're looking at our most populous center, the most places that are affected by these floodwaters, as we've seen, be it through Irene, even back to tracking numbers that we have for damages that were accrued back to the floods in the 1950s and the 1960s. And Phoenicia and Mount Tremper are absolutely horrendously hit every time. Again, I can tell you that the Safari Committee has recognized Alabria as one of the next places to go. Shandaken was another place that we need to go and recognize. These are the places where the hamlet is actually built very, very close, if not within the floodplain, at the verge of the floodplain. You have other areas such as Big Indian where there's limited properties within the floodplain because it is a wide area underneath the bridge and really doesn't affect a lot of houses. Again, we can look further into that as we go through these processes over the years. But following this process, we already know that DEP has funding that will be available for some implementation projects, is vetted through this process. So we're fairly certain, New York Rising money or not, that we will have vetted projects that are implementable at the end of this process within a year. That's the best I can tell you. Again, the New York Rising is a very broad spectrum of the studies that were done, and as far as I know, Tetra Tech did not go as in-depth as these folks are going to go with the specific areas.
I think too, this study will look very detailed in a large area. All the studies we've done in the past looked at very small sections, like Phoenicia by the bridge by Torrance. We didn't look at everything around it. This ties that into the Esopus, how the Esopus affects the stony flow, how the county bridge affects the Esopus, which affects the stony flow, and all the way up the street and all the way down the street. You can't just look at a little piece and try to fix it. You have to look at the whole thing. And that's what this does. It goes a lot more in depth, a lot more detail.
Okay, well, that's my overview. I know Rob gave everything else.
I want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming, making the presentation. We look forward. We're probably going to set up the meetings. I think we had scheduled for October,
Yeah, I know the.
October or November, somewhere in there.
The Safari Group's meeting, I think, next week, right?
Safari Group will be meeting next week. But I'm saying for the local hamlet meetings, again, Rick, this is what you want to pay attention to.
I know.
We will be having a meeting probably at the parish hall sometime in October around Columbus Day weekend, as well as another meeting we're hoping to get at the Emerson for the Mount Tremper residents to come to approximately the same time. So again, these folks don't have to go back and forth all the time. Again, can't thank them enough, can't thank the watershed program and DEP for giving us the money to do this. So we hope forward we get a benefit out of this.
Rob, we're going to just leave up here copies of these to them, and 11 by testing is obviously not enough for everybody, but for folks in the commission or folks from the public.
Here, folks, so we have maps up here of the areas that are to be studied, showing with delineation of where the areas are. Off the top of my head, I can tell you Phoenicia is roughly just above the Woodland Valley Bridge to approximately the Diner Flats, if that makes sense. The Mount Tremper section will take from that area down through and past the Route 28 bridge, approximately down to behind the cemetery in some area in there. It's also going up to Beaver Kill, quite a ways on Miller Road. So it's a huge project area. Again, we will put these maps in digital form on our website, so it's accessible for you to look at. And look forward to starting this process.
We'll stick around too, Rob.
Okay. All right, so one more announcement. Tomorrow is primary election from noon till 9 p.m. If you're enrolled as a Democrat, Independent Party, or working families, you'll be able to vote in your normal polling place, which would be down the hall or the firehouse. And that's noon till 9.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to our committee reports. Rich, ambulance, please.
Good evening.
Turn the switch.
Switch.
Good evening. You got it? You got it? No?
Object.
Okay. Here you go. See?
I will rope you guys off with that.
All right, so the August report for the town of Shandaken ambulance, total calls received was 47. Mutual aid was given 5 to the town of Olive, 3 to the town of Lexington. Mutual aid received was 1, second call in the district on a weekend. It's a bittersweet time of year when we usher our little loved ones to the bus stop, as all schools started this month. My soapbox as of recent has been school bus safety. As my wife and I proudly shared tears whilst our oldest daughter, Gianna, walked onto a bus for the first time last week. A comforting thought, once children are on the bus, is the fact that NHTSA statistics show that our loved ones are 13 times more likely to be involved in an accident in a passenger vehicle as they are on the bus, and are 10 times safer than walking to school. Unfortunately, more children are hurt outside of the bus as pedestrians than they are in the bus itself. The balance being children between 4 and 7 years old, either being hit by the bus itself or by motorists passing the buses illegally. That being said, the point to bring home here is that everyone on the road must have a heightened awareness that this time of year. Do not pass a bus that is stopped, and a good rule of thumb is to stop completely when you see any warning light, whether it be yellow or red. Parents, stress safety to your loved ones while waiting for the bus and getting off of it, and when possible, accompany them. Children are the most unpredictable pedestrians for a number of reasons, mostly because of their size, their curiosity, and being comfortable in their surroundings, like being at the bus stop, being in their neighborhood, or at school. So be aware of their actions as well. If you see a child walking near a roadway or in a school zone, just slow down. Be cautious. Keep these few tips in mind, and you'll surely do your part in keeping our kids safe. It's the mileage and my proud papa moment down at the bottom.
Yeah, it's a nice picture of your daughter, congratulations.
Like that.
I'd like to add something too on safety tonight, which is about bear season, I believe, opened up Saturday, I believe it was, and we're now going into the middle of hiking season, so that was new this year for a bear season to open so early. So we're gonna have hikers and bear hunters in the woods at the same time, so just make sure you wear, make sure you wear nice loud colors there, so you see.
I just bought you a bearskin coat too. With that, I'd like to welcome our new police chief, Story. If you please step up for police report.
Okay, thanks for everybody. Thanks for the town board for the support of me and selecting me as the new police chief. So we handled 216 calls last month, 7 arrests, 13 charges, and 34 tickets. Obviously, you see on the agenda tonight, we're hiring 4 new part-time police officers. We haven't really hired anybody since about 3 years ago. And that was Officer Sharon, who is now currently working full-time for the sheriff's office, and therefore his availability is really limited. In the last couple of weeks, we've had to cover shifts using overtime rather than part-time guys, because our part-time guys aren't always available. Hopefully these 4 new guys coming on, 2 of them are not working at other police departments right now, so their availability for us should be a lot greater than what our current part-timers have. And that's all I
Like
got.
add to that, where we're just replacing, we're still actually 1 down, right?
We're still really 1 down if you take me out of the equation.
Right.
I mean, I've been covering shifts since I took over.
So we're not like, we're not adding like a lot of
As far as
officers.
equipment goes to outfit these 4 guys, I have like 90% of the equipment to outfit them. Councilman Bernstein's not here tonight. He had some questions about our new vests. We ordered 5 new vests. They're all in. One's got to be sent out to get readjusted. That was all paid for through our asset forfeiture account, which was funds that we got from being part urgent and, sending manpower down there to, the drug investigations within our town and the county. So the plan is we just got $3,600 in the Department of Justice grant for vests. So the 4 new guys will hopefully get measured next Monday or Tuesday, and a couple of the other guys that have been here for a while, we'll get them measured up and get them new vests as well. Between the urgent funds that we got, the asset forfeiture account, and the grant, we should be able to just about get everybody a new vest with the money. And that's it. So like I said, equipment-wise, 9%. I pretty much have everybody covered equipment-wise on the new hires. And that's it. Thank you.
Very good, Chad.
recreation water. Alfred. Alfred.
We're still looking to extend that new line or replace the old line coming down from Smith's Reservoir. And that seems to be a roadblock right now because Rick just mentioned tonight that you're going to be, is it DEP? DEC is going to be doing a GIS survey to see exactly where they think it should be versus necessarily where it is. So right now it's at a standstill. We did have 20,000 gallon a day leak at the house down on Plank Road, next to where the corral is for the goats. And the issue with that is these houses that are condemned, and there's some on Station Road, I don't understand or don't know what the process would be, because some of them have squatters in them that are condemned and nobody's supposed to be living in them, and yet they're getting water service. So there's a conflict between reality and what really should be with the system.
If the house is condemned, then there's supposed to be no one living in it, and the water should be shut off. And the water is shut off by the water superintendent.
Okay. Good. All right. I mean, we're a little bit in doubt about that.
And I know Rick's shy at the microphone, but I was hoping he was going to get up to thank Malone and McBroom, the engineering firm, that sent him the German engineer that he requested. It was an engineer that showed up of German heritage to assist Rick with the assessment of the pump in the filtration plant. And he's currently working on the specs, and he's very familiar with the system. And Rick and he hit it off well.
This is a
We
miracle
should
in
have-
itself.
That's a miracle in itself.
We should all rejoice on that. Next meeting, the 17th.